So in Acts chapter 13, one of the interesting points that one or two folk have been asking me about is where it says in verse 10 that Saul, who was also called Paul, he was filled with the Holy Spirit. Why the name change? What's going on here? One thing to note is that Saul and Paul, of course, are the same person. And he always had the two names. This isn't a new thing that Luke's bringing into his narrative, the story in Acts here. He's been called Saul up to now. Saul is a good Hebrew name. Saul Paul was part of the tribe of Benjamin. We know that was the same tribe as the King Saul, and so he was probably named by his parents after King Saul. But he also has a Roman name, Paul. And that would be because he's a Roman citizen as well. He was born a Roman citizen, and he would have been given a Roman name. So in Greek was the language of the time, really. In Greek, the language that the Acts was written in originally as well, you have these two names. So you have Saulus and Paulus. Again, very similar, Saulus and Paulus. So why the change? Two real reasons for the change. Firstly, I think Luke, who's writing Acts, wants us to recognize that now really Paul is going to be in a kind of Roman world, and he's going to be reaching out to Gentiles, so those who aren't Jews, so the rest of the nationalities and nations in the Roman Empire. He's reaching out to them with the gospel, so he's going to be using that name Paul because that's more contextually and culturally appropriate. So there's been that shift from being around more Jewish believers now to being into mission to the Gentiles. But also what's going on around that is a recognition that actually different cultures appreciate things differently. So in the Roman world, in Greek, the name Saulus, the word Saulus, didn't just mean a name, actually had a different definition, and it meant kind of like a straddling or a waddling kind of action. So it wasn't really a connotation that Paul wanted with his name. Aside from that, it became a kind of slang word for prostitutes as well. So it had some connotations that Paul didn't want to associate with it, and it made much more sense then to be called Paulus, or as we now know, Paul. So that's why there's the name change. It's not a new name, it's a name he's always had. And because he's entering into the Gentile world with the gospel, he wants to make sure he is as culturally appropriate as possible to make to kind of break down as many barriers as possible, and not have a kind of slang word for kind of waddling and other things as his name in that Greek world. So there we go, a short video, why we have in chapter 13 of Acts, Saul to Paul.